Misha Ghosh was born into a life of privilege, wealth, and social prominence in Kolkata, India. Her father, a prominent real estate tycoon, had amassed a fortune, ensuring his family lived a life of luxury. Misha grew up surrounded by affluence, attending prestigious schools and mixing with the children of India's elite. Her childhood was filled with the best that money could buy: education, travel, social connections. And she was groomed to one day manage her father's legacy. A natural at business, Misha possessed a sharp mind and a magnetic charm that captivated everyone she met. By the age of 25, she had taken control of her family's luxury hotel chain, which catered to high-end clients. Under her leadership, the brand gained international acclaim, and Nisha quickly became a celebrated figure in business circles, known for her sophistication, confidence, and business acumen. Behind her public image, however, she felt an immense pressure to uphold and expand her family's legacy, a burden that sometimes weighed heavily on her. At the age of 30, Nisha married Rahul Sen, a charismatic and accomplished diplomat from a prestigious family. Their wedding was a grand event, attended by prominent figures in politics and business, symbolizing the union of two powerful lineages. To the world, Nisha and Rahul appeared to have an ideal marriage, filled with love and mutual respect. They traveled frequently, attended elite social gatherings, and seemed to enjoy every luxury life had to offer. In the early years of their marriage, Nisha and Rahul were blessed with three beautiful daughters. However, as the only child and heir of her family, Nisha felt a growing pressure to produce a son to continue her family's legacy. While she loved her daughters dearly, she could not shake the traditional expectation that she needed a male heir. This societal pressure, compounded by her own desire to meet her family's expectations, became a point of contention with Rahul. Unlike Misha, he was content with their daughters and resisted the idea of trying for more children solely for the hope of a son. Over time, this difference in perspective began to create a rift in their marriage, and the once harmonious relationship became strained. Samar Malhotra entered Nisha's life at a pivotal moment. Amidst her dissatisfaction and strained marriage, she met him at an upscale event in Delhi, where he stood out among the crowd. He was tall, with a striking presence, always dressed immaculately and carrying an air of mystery. Known to be a spiritual advisor and feng shui expert, Samar claimed to help people align their lives with their desires through mystical methods that he assured were backed by ancient wisdom. Intrigued and emotionally vulnerable, Nisha found herself captivated by Samar's confidence and calm authority. He seemed to understand her frustrations and fears without judgment, offering solutions that went beyond the typical paths she had explored. Samar subtly suggested that he could bring about a shift in her fate, alluding that he could even help her have the son she longed for. His words were laced with promises, leaving Misha both curious and cautious. She was skeptical, but Samar's charisma made it hard for her to resist. Slowly, she allowed him into her life, seeking his advice for minor decisions, which soon escalated into deepening trust and reliance. Friends and family noticed her growing attachment to Samar, but no one imagined the extent to which he was beginning to influence her. Over time, Samar's presence in her life grew stronger, ultimately putting her marriage to Rahul on unstable ground. The bond between Nisha and Samar soon became undeniable. The once strong marriage between Nisha and Rahul was crumbling as her obsession with having a son clashed with Rahul's contentment. After years of arguments and emotional distancing, Nisha made a life-altering decision. She filed for divorce in 1997. In a society that still carried a strong stigma around divorce, especially among the elite, this decision shocked her family, friends, and the public. The scandal was compounded when, barely a year after her divorce, Nisha married Samar. Nisha's mother and close friends were deeply disturbed by this new relationship. They viewed Samar as an opportunist who had seen an opening to manipulate Nisha for her wealth and status. Her mother pleaded with her to reconsider, warning that Samar's motives might not be genuine. But Nisha, convinced that Samar was the key to achieving her dreams, pushed away everyone who questioned her decisions. She even distanced herself from her daughters, sending them to boarding school as she focused on building her new life with Samar. Isolated from her loved ones, Nisha moved with Samar to a grand estate in Bangalore. ready to begin a new chapter despite her growing isolation from her family. Initially, Nisha hoped that her marriage to Samar would bring her the peace she had longed for. Yet, almost immediately, she sensed a shift in the relationship. Samar, who had once been charming and attentive, began imposing subtle restrictions on her life. At first, these were small requests, encouraging her to follow certain routines for spiritual harmony, or to reduce contact with certain friends who he deemed negative influences. Slowly, these requests became commands, with Samar closely monitoring her movements, controlling whom she spoke to, and overseeing her social engagements. Nisha's once vibrant personality dimmed under his influence. She was no longer seen at social gatherings she once loved, and even stopped communicating with old friends, who were becoming alarmed. Samar also convinced her to transfer significant assets into joint accounts, assuring her it was a necessary step for their future together. Nisha's daughters, especially Priya, grew concerned about the distance between them and their mother. Whenever they tried to visit her at the Bangalore mansion, Samar would intercept them with excuses, often saying Nisha was resting or meditating. In private, Samar's demeanor grew harsher. He would berate Nisha if she expressed a desire to visit her daughters or hinted at rejoining her social circle. He became paranoid about her loyalty, insinuating that she didn't fully trust him. The marriage, initially built on promises of companionship and shared dreams, became a prison. Nisha felt trapped but was unsure how to escape, isolated from her family and the life she had once known. The pressure of trying to conceive a son added a final strain. The treatments and unsuccessful attempts exhausted Nisha both physically and emotionally, but Samar was relentless. When Nisha expressed a desire to divide her assets among her daughters, Samar's calm facade shattered. He accused her of betrayal, accusing her of undermining his influence and ignoring his guidance. Nisha was now deeply aware that the man she had married bore no resemblance to the man she had first met, but by then, she felt it was too late. One day in July 1999, Nisha vanished without any forewarning. Her family members were told conflicting accounts. Samar initially informed them she was traveling for spiritual retreats. Later, he claimed she was undergoing medical treatment in Europe for an undisclosed condition. The suddenness of her departure, coupled with Samar's evasiveness, raised alarms for her family and friends. When her daughters questioned him directly, Samar dismissed them with vague explanations, further fueling their suspicions. During the first weeks of her disappearance, Samar maintained an unsettling calm. He continued to live in the mansion, hosting gatherings and parties as though nothing was amiss, inviting new acquaintances, and even boasting of his influence in high society circles. Meanwhile, Nisha's close friends and family were left grappling with a growing sense of dread. Her mother, who had been devoted to Nisha and adored her grandchildren, was heartbroken and restless, feeling that something was profoundly wrong. As weeks turned into months, the absence became impossible to ignore. Nisha's daughters, who were still young but mature enough to sense the tension, repeatedly tried to contact the police and insisted on investigating their mother's whereabouts. Yet Samar's affluence and charm delayed any serious inquiry, leaving Nisha's loved ones in a painful limbo. After her mother's sudden disappearance, Priya, then a teenager, grew increasingly alarmed by the conflicting and evasive explanations from Samar Malhotra. Though young, Priya was astute and highly observant, traits she had inherited from her mother. When Samar claimed that Nisha had gone abroad for medical treatment, Priya's suspicions deepened. She knew her mother would never leave her daughters without communicating something. Samar's demeanor, cold and dismissive, only added to her unease. Determined to uncover the truth, Priya began meticulously gathering information, starting with the few friends and staff members who still felt loyal to Nisha. With each passing month, Priya's persistence intensified. She visited the police repeatedly, despite their initial reluctance to investigate, as Samar's wealth and social standing created bureaucratic hurdles. Undeterred, Priya documented everything she observed, from her conversations with Samar to the inconsistencies in his accounts. Her notes became a silent witness to her mother's absence and the growing list of suspicious circumstances around Samar. Priya's efforts eventually pressured the police into opening a formal investigation. She contacted her mother's friends, gathered witness statements, and convinced the police to examine her mother's phone and bank records. Despite Samar's attempts to obstruct her access to information, Priya pushed through, sometimes visiting the mansion to search for clues, talking to the household staff who were increasingly fearful and withdrawn. After months of careful investigation, Priya and her family managed to bring together a case strong enough to warrant an official inquiry. This inquiry finally forced Samar into the public eye, exposing him to scrutiny that he had been able to avoid up to that point. The breakthrough in the investigation came nearly a year after Nisha's disappearance, in November 2000, when a former servant who had worked for Samar at the time of Nisha's disappearance approached Priya and the police. Initially terrified, he had remained silent due to fear of Samar's wrath. But Priya's unwavering pursuit had given him the courage to come forward. He revealed that he had witnessed something chilling on the night Nisha disappeared. According to his statement, Samar had drugged Nisha, rendering her unconscious. The servant recounted how Samar had carried Nisha's limp body to a hidden basement room he had constructed beneath the mansion, a room unknown to most. There, Samar had placed her inside a custom-made wooden coffin, sealing her within and locking the room. Samar had paid the servant a substantial amount and threatened him into silence, warning that he would meet the same fate if he spoke out. The servant's revelation sent shockwaves through the investigative team, and Priya was devastated, horrified by the brutality of the crime against her mother. This testimony led the police to obtain a warrant, and a full forensic team was dispatched to the mansion to conduct an intensive search. Beneath the mansion's marble flooring, they uncovered a concealed compartment. Inside was the coffin, its lid covered with desperate scratch marks from Nisha's final moments. The discovery of Nisha's body was a painful vindication for Priya and her family, providing irrefutable evidence of Samar's cruelty and premeditated intent. The news of the coffin, Nisha's final struggle, and the sheer horror of her death became national headlines, casting a public spotlight on the tragedy and cementing Priya's role as a relentless seeker of justice for her mother. The trial of Samar Malhotra for the murder of Nisha Ghosh began in 2004 and captivated public attention. The courtroom was filled each day with family members, friends, and members of the media, all eager to see justice for Nisha. The prosecution presented a meticulously prepared case, determined to expose the cruelty and premeditation behind Samar's actions. They argued that Samar's need for control, combined with jealousy and a refusal to accept Nisha's independence, had driven him to carefully plan her death. Every piece of evidence, the hidden basement, the custom-built coffin, and the horrifying forensic details of Nisha's final struggle, painted a chilling picture of the lengths he was willing to go to fulfill his need for dominance. A crucial part of the prosecution's strategy involved calling witnesses who had known both Nisha and Samar during their marriage. Nisha's close friends testified to her increasing isolation under Samar's influence. Her colleagues recounted how her vibrant personality had begun to dim as her marriage progressed, describing how she had slowly distanced herself from social and professional circles. Nisha's family members revealed Samar's possessive behavior, explaining how he discouraged her from maintaining contact with them and became angry when she attempted to exercise her independence. The turning point in the trial came when the prosecution called Priya to the stand. Now a young woman, Priya described her mother's character and the slow disintegration of Nisha's happiness after her marriage to Samar. She spoke about her mother's fear and discomfort around Samar in the months leading up to her disappearance, painting a picture of a woman trapped and alone. Her testimony was both emotional and powerful, and the courtroom listened in complete silence as she described her journey to uncover the truth about her mother's fate. Priya's determination and bravery became the emotional heart of the case, rallying public opinion behind her. The defense attempted to counter by questioning the reliability of the evidence and downplaying the forensic details. They argued that Samar's actions had been impulsive, brought on by psychological distress, rather than premeditated. However, the prosecution's careful presentation of Samar's behavior before and after Nisha's disappearance countered this argument. Testimonies from the household staff and the servant's confession about the events on the night of Nisha's disappearance reinforced the image of Samar as a calculating individual who had planned his actions down to the last detail. After months of hearings, the trial concluded with Samar being found guilty of first-degree murder. In a highly publicized sentencing, the court sentenced him to death, citing the brutality of his crime and the profound impact it had on his family, especially on Priya, who had endured years of anguish while seeking justice. For Priya and her family, the verdict marked a long-awaited triumph, bringing some measure of closure after years of sorrow and struggle. After the initial trial, Samar's legal team appealed the death sentence, arguing that it was excessive and that he deserved leniency. The appeal process took years, and in 2007, the case reached the Supreme Court. The defense based its argument on Samar's mental health, claiming he had acted under extreme emotional and psychological distress, which should mitigate his punishment. The appeal intensified media coverage, and the public, already captivated by the case, followed every development closely. The Supreme Court's final review of the case was a detailed examination of the crime, its planning, and its aftermath. Justices revisited the evidence, the testimonies, and the brutality of the crime. They noted Samar's refusal to admit guilt or show remorse, even after the overwhelming evidence against him. At the same time, the justices considered the defense's arguments and weighed whether the death penalty was proportionate to the crime, especially given the global shift toward more restrictive use of capital punishment. After thorough deliberation, the Supreme Court upheld Samar's life sentence, though they commuted the death sentence to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. In their final statement, the justices emphasized that while Samar's actions were profoundly cruel and premeditated, life imprisonment would serve as adequate punishment and a reminder of the consequences of his actions. For Priya, the decision was complex. She had wanted her mother's killer to face the severest punishment, but she also understood that Samar's life sentence would ensure he spent the rest of his days in confinement, unable to harm anyone else. The life sentence without parole meant he would remain in prison, isolated and deprived of the freedom he had taken from Nisha. The life and tragic death of Nisha Ghosh serves as a profound reminder of the complexities surrounding domestic violence, emotional manipulation, and the desperate struggle for independence faced by many women. Nisha's story transcended her individual circumstances, becoming emblematic of broader societal issues, urging a critical examination of the structures that allow such tragedies to occur. Nisha, once a vibrant individual with dreams and aspirations, was slowly consumed by a toxic marriage marked by control and coercion. Her struggles were not just personal. They reflected a systemic issue that many women face when entangled in abusive relationships. The isolating tactics employed by her husband, Samar Malhotra, underscored how abusers often seek to sever ties between their victims and the outside world, leaving them vulnerable and alone. After her death, the impact of Nisha's story resonated deeply within the community and beyond. Her daughter Priya embodied resilience and determination in the face of unimaginable loss. Her relentless pursuit of justice not only brought attention to the specifics of her mother's case, but also highlighted the pressing need for societal change regarding how domestic violence and emotional abuse are perceived and addressed. Priya's advocacy became a source of hope and empowerment for others who had experienced similar trauma. The establishment of the Nisha Ghosh Foundation marked a pivotal turn in Priya's life. It was not merely a tribute to her mother, but a transformative initiative aimed at providing support to those affected by domestic violence. The foundation offered legal aid, counseling, and safe spaces, filling a crucial gap for women who often feel trapped and powerless. It became a hub for education and awareness, helping to dismantle the stigma surrounding victims of domestic abuse. By sharing her mother's story, Priya illuminated the complexities of such relationships, sparking conversations that were previously shrouded in silence. The public's response to Nisha's case also played a significant role in shifting perceptions of domestic violence. It catalyzed discussions around the need for stronger legal protections for victims and the inclusion of emotional and psychological abuse within the framework of domestic violence laws. Many advocates began to call for comprehensive reforms, emphasizing the importance of recognizing emotional manipulation as a serious form of abuse that can have lasting psychological effects on victims. Misha's story served as a wake-up call for legislators, urging them to reconsider the existing legal protections and make necessary amendments to better serve victims in similar situations. In the years following the trial, Misha's case remained a touchstone for discussions around women's rights in India. It highlighted the societal tendency to downplay emotional abuse and control, prompting activists to push for broader definitions of domestic violence in law. As the foundation grew, it attracted attention from various organizations dedicated to women's empowerment, drawing partnerships that strengthened its impact. Moreover, the tragic narrative of Nisha and the bravery of Priya inspired countless individuals to share their own experiences with domestic violence. It fostered a culture of openness and support, encouraging victims to speak out and seek help. This ripple effect demonstrated how one family's struggle could ignite a movement, leading to increased awareness and the collective effort to combat domestic abuse in all its forms. Ultimately, Nisha's legacy is one of hope, resilience, and the enduring power of love. It serves as a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the importance of standing up against injustice. Through her story, she continues to inspire others to confront difficult truths, advocate for themselves, and seek support. Misha's life reminds us that while the scars of abuse may run deep, the journey toward healing, empowerment, and change is possible. In the grand tapestry of societal change, Nisha Ghosh's story is woven with threads of loss, courage, and an unyielding commitment to justice. Her narrative, intertwined with that of Priya's determination, emphasizes that while one life may be tragically cut short, the echoes of that life can fuel a movement for change, awareness, and hope for future generations. In this way, Nisha's story is not just a tale of sorrow, but a powerful call to action, a reminder that every voice matters, and every story has the potential to inspire change.